Well, hi. Welcome again to the Old Principle. I am the Old Principle, and this is lesson number 82. Wise man, foolish man. Wise man, foolish man. Whoa! That doesn't look very impressive, does it? Looks like somebody was not too wise. That's the ocean out there. Okay. So let's start our today's lesson by asking Mrs. Ash to read the story. Wise man, foolish man, lesson number 82.
Once there were two men who each wanted to build a house for himself and his family. They both went to a wise man who told them how to build a strong house. We'll call them Sam and Joe. Sam went to work and built his house just like the wise man told him to do. He used strong materials and built his house on a rock foundation. Soon after the house was finished, there came a big storm, and it rained very hard. It rained so hard that the nearby river flooded over onto his street. The water rushed by the house and pushed hard on its walls. But the house didn't fall down because it stood firmly on its rock foundation. So Sam and his family stayed safe and dry. Because Sam listened to the wise man and built his house the way the wise man told him to, he showed that he was also wise and his house was saved. Joe, however, didn't follow the wise man's instructions and built his house out on a strip of sand close to the water. We don't know why he decided to build his house out on the sand. Perhaps he liked to fish. Anyway, he didn't listen to the wise man. When the storm hit, the waters rose up and the flood pushed against Joe's house. The house wasn't attached to anything and was just sitting on top of the sand. But when the sand under the house washed away, the house fell down. Remember how the sand washes out from around your toes when you stand on the beach and a wave comes up? Well, imagine what that would do to a house. The house fell down, and Joe's family had to sit out in the rain all night. Since Joe didn't listen to the wise man, it's clear that he himself wasn't very wise.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to move on to the actual lesson itself. So you're free.
Okay.
Don't run away, though, because I may ask you to come back out here and tell us the wisest thing you ever did. That was to marry me, right? Oh, well, let me see if, or maybe something foolish you did. You don't want to talk about that, huh? Okay. Well, here we are to start the lesson. Wise man, foolish man. Now, by the way, this story was told almost 2,000 years ago. And a very famous person told the story, but I'm not going to tell you who it is until the end of the lesson. So, but this story has been around for a long, long time. And millions and millions of people have read this story. Once upon a time, once there were two men who each wanted to build a house. My father liked to build things. He actually was not a builder, but he was, we say 建材公司. He had all of the materials for building houses. So he built houses. At least our house, two of our houses, he built. So I grew up around people building houses. And maybe I'll tell you what my bad experience about building something too, but not yet. Once there were two men who each wanted to build a house for himself and his family. Going on. They both went to a wise man who told them how to build a strong house. Okay? They both went to a wise man to tell them how to build a house. Okay? It's always good to learn how to do it. Okay? So, they were both wise in this respect. They both went to the wise man. Okay? Going on. We'll call them Sam and Joe. So we have two people. Sam is one person, 另外一个人是名叫 Joe. Going on. Sam went to work and built his house just like the wise man told him to do. So they both went to work. Sam went to work, 就开始工作, and built his house just like the wise man told him. Okay? To do. So, is he smart or is he foolish? 他是愚蠢的吗？还是聪明的？ Well, he did what the wise man said. 聪明的人是这样说，他是那样做。Okay? He used strong materials, 很坚固的材料. Okay? And built his house on a rock foundation. Okay? So the foundation, what's a foundation? Foundation is what is under the house. The foundation. Okay? The foundation was, well, built his house on a rock foundation. At least the foundation was a rock. Punisher, a rock. Okay? Sam went to work and built his house just like the wise man. Okay, going on. Soon after the house was finished, there came a big storm, 暴风雨. Okay, have you been in a big storm? We've all been in big storm. What happens? The wind blows and the rain comes down. And there's maybe lightning and thunder and all of these things. And it rained very hard. The big storm, 暴风雨, and it rained very hard. It rained so hard that the nearby river flooded over onto his street. Okay? Oh man, when I read this story, I think of my childhood, because where Mrs. Ash and I grew up as children, we had almost every winter we had floods. The water raised up, and the 水就上来, a flood, okay? And the river flooded over its bank. That means that, you know what a bank of a river is, 岸边, and when the water it goes too high, then it goes over the bank. 这超过这个岸边 and then of course that's quite dangerous. And it flooded over onto his street. Okay, 他住的那个街道 Okay, the water came up, up, up. Okay? Okay. Hey, by the way, sorry, I have to tell Mrs. Ash something. Get ready because we're going to have you sing a solo here. No, I'll sing with you the song about the flood. Okay? So just be ready. Okay. Okay. Now, here we go. Moving on. The water rushed by the house. Whoosh, rushed the water to 冲流, okay, by the house and pushed hard against the walls. Okay, so it's pushing against the walls, pushing against the walls. But, going on, the house didn't fall down. It didn't fall down. 没有垮下来. Okay, because it stood firmly on its rock foundation, 根基. Of course, the foundation is 根基, and the 磐石, the 根基, very strong, very solid. So Sam and his family stayed safe and dry. Well, my experience is if the water was pushing against the house, they may be safe, but maybe some of the water got in the house. But anyway, they were safe, and the house did not fall over. Going on. Because Sam listened to the wise man, 因为 Sam 就听从 the wise man and built his house the way the wise man told him, 按照他所指示的, okay? He showed that he was also wise. The wise man told him, and he did what the wise man said, and in the end, what? He proved that he was wise and his house was saved. 可以保留下去. In other words, his house still stayed there. It didn't get washed away down the river. Okay, moving on. Joe, however, now are you guessing what's going to happen now? If you have a wise man, you probably have one who's not so wise. 他是有一点愚笨的，有一点愚蠢的. Okay, Joe, however, didn't follow the wise man. He didn't follow the wise man's instructions. 他的指示. And he built his house out on a strip of sand. So he built his house on the 沙土上. Okay, built his house on a strip. Okay, what is a strip? Okay, 一条. Okay, so it's strip means it's not very wide, and it's a piece of land strip. It's not very wide. Sometimes we say an air strip. 这个飞机的这个跑道嘛 is called an air strip. So a strip of sand, that means a long, narrow piece of sand. And that's where he built his house. Okay, close to the water. Now, I must admit, living close to water does have an appeal. 也有一点点的吸引力，对我来说。Why? Because at night, can you imagine this? At night, you're laying in bed, 还没有睡觉，已经躺在床上 and you listen to the water of the river. Doesn't that sound good? Ah, I love the sound of water. In fact, I love the sound of the ocean. 这个海边的这个波浪，这个是海浪。I like the sound. Whoosh, whoosh. Sometimes the sound of water is very relaxing. 使你很放松，心里很舒服。Okay, so he thought maybe that's what he was thinking. So he built his house beside the water on the sand. Okay, going on. We don't know why he decided to build his house out on the sand. Of course, we don't know why. The story, the original story from 2,000 years ago, doesn't say why he decided to do it. Probably because it was easier. That's usually why people do it and cost less money. Okay, perhaps he liked to fish. Well, maybe, but you don't fish from your house, so I don't know why he built it out there. Or maybe he liked the sound of the water, like I just said. Going on. Anyway, he didn't listen to the wise man. He didn't listen to the wise man. Going on. When the storm hit, okay, we usually say when a storm hits. Usually to hit, that's to hit. Da. But when a storm hits, it means 来到. Usually gives the idea of comes quickly. Okay? Okay? And it's maybe 有一点厉害. Okay? So the storm, when the storm hit, 这个暴风雨来到的时候, the waters 膨上来. Okay? Okay? And the flood pushed against Joel's house. 同样. Okay? The water pushed and pushed and pushed against the house. Going on. The house was not attached to anything. Uh-oh. The house was not attached to anything. It had no foundation. And so 没有连接任何一个东西 and was just sitting on top of the sand. Okay, 只不过是摆在这个沙土上。When the sand under the house washed away, the house fell down. Have you ever been to the ocean and played with the sand? Okay, how the water, when the water is moving, the sand 很容易会冲走, okay? But when the sand under the house started to be washed, the house, what happened? It fell down. Going on. Remember how the sand washes out from around your toes when you stand on the beach and a wave comes in? How many times? Because Mrs. Ash and I lived not too far away from the ocean. So maybe we visited many, many times. And when you stand out there and the wave comes in and the sand washes out from between your toes, and sometimes you almost feel like you're going to fall because the water is going around your feet, and the water actually is underneath your feet. Okay? and you stand on the beach, and when a wave comes up, 当一个海浪就上来的时候，你会发生这件事情 going on? Well, imagine what imagine what that would do to a house. Of course, a house built on sand is in deep trouble. The house fell down, and Joe's family had to sit out in the rain all night. 整个晚上，他们家里的人必须淋水，这个住在外面all night long. Not a happy thought. There must not have been very many other houses around. Otherwise, you would want to go down there to your friend's house. Oh, please help us. Maybe he went to Sam's house. I don't think the story says that. Okay, going on. Since Joe didn't listen to the wise man, it's clear that he himself wasn't very wise. Since Joe didn't listen to the wise man, it's clear that he himself was not very wise. Okay, is there any more? Or are we done? The wise man and foolish man. Now let's take a look at this picture. I thought that this was a pretty good picture. Here is somebody who built his house on the sand. Okay, now what's happening? Look, the waves are coming up, and what's happening? The waves are washing, and the house is falling down. So now you can understand why a wise man and a foolish man, they build their houses differently. Wow, they build their houses differently. Man, in my mind right now, I'm just thinking of so many stories because we do come from close to the ocean side. So many stories. Close to where we lived, there was a whole town that was washed away because they thought they were safe. And then there were some changes made, and the water started to wash away. And today, there is not one single house left there. It's just sand, that's all. Not one single house. What was the name of that? It was Bayside? That was the title. The Bay City. If you look for Bay City, Oregon, you go to where we live and grew up. If you look for Bay City, Oregon, you won't find it. It has long since washed away. But when it was popular, it was many houses and many rich people lived there. Okay, Mrs. Ash, we're going to come up here. We haven't exactly rehearsed this. I want you to step back just a little bit here. And a long time ago, 2,000 years ago, a very famous person by the name of Jesus, 基督教的耶稣, he told this story. This is the first time that the story was told. And he said that the wise person would listen to his words, and they would build their life on his words. So what he was saying, that is, his words were like a foundation. So as a child, I didn't have that opportunity, but my children, and they sang a song. Our children sang a song called The Wise Man. So we're going to give you a unrehearsed 我们没有预习啊 unrehearsed version of the wise man and the foolish man. I hope I remember this. Okay, here we go.
Wait a minute. One more thing.
What? Speak up.
The rock is like this. Is that right?
Is that the rock?
I can't remember for sure, but we're going to call this the rock.
The rock?
Okay?
Okay, well, what's the sand?
This.
Oh, this. Okay, okay, here we go. Okay, what's... Okay. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. And the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. And the wise man's house stood firm, fast. Oh, whatever. Okay, now we got to get the foolish man. We're running out of time, but we can get the foolish man in here.
Okay.
The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. And the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down and the floods came up. And the foolish man's house went splat.
Splat.
Splat. Okay. So now you're free. No, you're free. I'll finish up here. Okay. We're going to now tell you how you can write a letter to us. You can sing a song to us too if you want to. Okay. Email address, theoldprinciple@gmail.com. theoldprinciple@gmail.com. 那如果你不记得这个，简单的来说呢 just go www.theoldprinciple.org. With that, join us for another interesting lesson.